To create a Schoology quiz, select Add Test or Quiz from the Add Materials menu. In the pop-up window, name the quiz, add a due date, select a grading category, a grading scale, and then I recommend that you have the quiz be hidden so that you can continue to work on it without your students having access to it. To assign points, think about how many questions will be on the quiz and how many points each question will have. If you want to create a 5-question quiz with a value of 10 points for each question, the quiz will be worth 50 points. Once you create the quiz, you can come back and change this if it turns out you write more or fewer questions. Click the blue Create button, and this will open a new window where you can begin writing your questions. Click the Add Question button and choose the question type. All the types of questions are excellent with the exception of the ordering type. I recommend you avoid this question type because the scoring is rather odd and unreliable, and even after working with Schoology on it, I'm not convinced that that's a good question to use with our students. Let's go ahead and add a multiple choice question. So when you click on that, opens a window for you to write your question. In this rich text editor area, you can write your question or your prompt, and then your choices. Notice that Schoology gives you 4 choices, but you can add additional ones or remove them. Once you type in your possible answers, check mark the one that is the correct answer. You can also drag the choices around by using this little arrow icon and moving them if you would like to do that. You can randomize choices, which means that each student will get the answer choices in random order. You can allow partial credit, and you can make this a timed question if you like. Once you're done with this question, click the blue Create button. This view displays what a completed question looks like. This is a fill-in-the-blank question. These questions work best when using a word bank, as Schoology will count correct only the answers that exactly match the given answer. So misspelled answers or answers with slightly different wording are marked as incorrect. Type a sentence or a group of sentences, leaving blanks where you choose. To create the blank, simply type an underscore and Schoology will create the blank. The blank answer field will also appear down here. When you check the word bank here, you get this filler words field as well. So you can type alternate answers that are different from the correct answers. So here I have the answers for my 3 blanks. You can see I have 3 blanks here, and the answers are here in the blank 1, 2, and 3 fields. And then I've typed a couple of filler words as well. You can choose partial credit, and I recommend that you do that for this kind of question so that students can receive credit if they get some, but maybe not all, of the blanks filled in correctly. You can choose case sensitive if that's appropriate, and you can make this a timed question as well. We're going to go ahead and click the blue Create button. And I want to show you what that looks like. So I'll click over on the Preview tab and scroll down so that you can see what that looks like. So here's the question, and Schoology has created the blanks. Here's the word bank here, and you can see those words have been scrambled. And then you simply click inside here and you can drag the answers. Well, I'm in preview mode, so you can't do it right now, but basically you'll be able to drag those answers there. When choosing a true-false question, the answers are already inserted for you here. Type your statement here and then choose the correct answer here. If the answer is false, you can also check this box here to require a correction. Then this space here opens up, this field here, where you'll type the correct answer. In this case, I recommend you make this a subjective question, because when graded, Schoology will, the phrase that the student writes must match this phrase exactly, worded exactly the same and spelled exactly like your correct phrase for the student to get full credit. And that's unlikely to happen. So I recommend that you make it a subjective question, which means that you'll grade it yourself. Notice that the correction weight is 50%, which means that the student will receive half credit for answering false and half credit for supplying the correction. You can adjust that percentage if you like. If you don't want to require a correction, don't check that box, and the question is a simple true-false question. Again, you can choose to make this a timed question, and when you're finished, click the blue Create button. To create a matching question, begin with the basic instruction here in the Rich Text Editor box. Add the two lists. Schoology defaults to 4 options, but you can add more choices or remove some of the blanks. Create your 2 lists so that the correct question and answer are next to each other. Schoology will scramble them for you. You can add filler words here to have more choices than the 4 that are required. You can allow partial credit, and I definitely recommend doing that for matching questions, so students can get, who get some answers correct but not all, will receive at least partial credit. You can make it a subjective question if you like, and you can make it a timed question. When you're ready, click the Create question button. And then let's go to the preview to take a look at what this kind of question looks like. So you can see here are the 4 characters, and because we added some extra filler words, our list is longer than 4, which makes it a little more challenging question. For short answer or essay questions, type your question or writing prompt here. Remember that you can include images and videos in this area. You can assign a character limit so that the answer length is limited. I do recommend you allow rich text answers for students, so they'll get a box similar to this, which will enable them to format with things like bold, italics, bullet points, etc. You can allow video and audio answers for your students if you like, and you can make it a timed question if you like. Check short answer or essay here. This is strictly related to the printing. So if you need to print a test for someone who is not able to take it online, check this to make sure they have enough room to answer their question. Short answer questions are subjective, which means that you will need to grade them. They're not auto-graded. Students will not receive their overall quiz grade until you grade all subjective questions. On the other hand, if you create a quiz that contains only auto-graded questions, Schoology will grade the quiz and automatically add the score to your grade book and to the student grade reports. Once you finish writing your questions, check to see if you created the number of questions you initially planned to create. On this quiz, for example, there are 7 questions. I will click on the gear here to edit the quiz information. Originally, I had made the quiz worth 50 points because I intended to write only 5 questions. Since I ended up with 7 questions, I came back and made the point total 70 points so that each question will still be worth 10 points. If I had left this at 50 and had written 7 questions, each question would have been worth 7.143 points, which is confusing to students. Once you've written your quiz questions, click on the Settings tab. Write instructions here about the quiz. This is what would normally be at the top of a printed quiz. Decide when the quiz will be available. In some cases, you want students to be able to access the quiz on their own schedule. At other times, You want the quiz available only on a certain date when students will take the quiz in class. You can add a specific date and time. Decide if you want a quiz, a time limit on the quiz, and decide how many attempts you're going to allow students to take. So you have many choices. And then decide which of those scores you're going to record, the highest score, the last score, or an average score. Decide if you want to randomize the order of the questions, which might be useful if students are taking the quiz in class, and that would prevent students from seeing each other's questions as readily. The page break, choose the type of paging you want. In most cases, I recommend using page breaks. However, if you have questions where students need to view a large image or chart or graph in order to answer a specific question, you may want to change this to one question per page so that you're sure that the image or chart and the question show up on the same page and don't accidentally flow over to another page. You can add a Spanish language keyboard option if that's appropriate. I do suggest that you allow students to review. This parallels what a student would do with a paper quiz. So after they finish, they would normally go back and check their questions. You decide if you want the quiz to be resumable or not. It may be important for the student to finish the quiz in one sitting, or you may not care and allow the student to come back to it later. View submissions. So saying yes here allows students to view the results of their submission. You can say yes or yes with correct answers. If you say no, students will not be able to see the results of their quiz or any comments you make. Set your printing options here. This allows you to print a quiz for students who might need to take it in written form. Once you've made your choices, click the blue Save Changes button. Take time to familiarize yourself with the settings. You will likely want to use similar settings for most of your quizzes. So now it's time to preview the quiz. So we'll click on the Preview tab up here. This is the same screen students will see. Click on the Begin Test Quiz button. And then you can see at the top here, the progress bar tells how many questions are on the page. They can click here if needed to show the instructions again. And then you as a teacher can click through some of these questions if you want. It's helpful to see, for example, that on a fill in the blank question, you put your cursor in the blank and then just click on the choice. You don't have to actually type it out. And that's really a good thing to train your students in. That'll make it easier. Scroll down to the bottom of the quiz. Your students would be able to then click the Review Answers button to see all of the questions and answers that they submitted. You, since we're in preview mode as a teacher, cannot see that. Once your students have taken the quiz, click on the Results tab here. You'll see a list of your students and we'll see which students have taken the quiz. We're going to take a look at one of my students here, Atticus Finch. You can see he's made 2 submissions, and you can see that Schoology timestamps when the student began and completed the quiz and the amount of time taken. Here's the score, and this little icon here identifies the fact that the teacher has made a comment on at least one of the questions. This one is pending review, so that means that we need to grade that. If you click on the little gear icon here, then click on View Edit. It's easy to see the auto-graded questions. Red indicates incorrect answers and green highlight indicates correct answers. The question number 7 had to be graded by the teacher, so you have to actually click in here to give that grade. And then you can click Save Changes. If a student has a problem with the technology when they're taking a quiz, so if a student has a problem with submitting, you can unsubmit or delete an attempt. Unsubmitting allows the student to resume the attempt with their previous answers intact, while deleting the attempt completely deletes that quiz forever.